Pro Tem, will you lead us in the pledge?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, Council is appreciative to have Reverend Abby Flemister of St. Matthew's Episcopal Church here to pray with us. Pastor, welcome to Council.
He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Micah 6:8. Let us pray. We will pray first for our country. We pray for our leadership. We pray for the social issues in our country, and then we'll conclude with the Lord's Prayer and benediction. We pray for our country. Almighty God, who has given us this good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech thee that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of the favor and glad to do thy will. Bless our land with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties and fashion into one united people the multitudes brought here out of many kindreds and tongues to live as one people. We pray for our leaders. Grant to the President of the United States, the Governor of the State of Ohio, the Mayor, and to all in authority, the city government of Columbus, wisdom and strength to know and to do thy will. Fill them with love of truth and righteousness, and make them ever mindful of their calling to serve these people in their fear, committed to their care. We pray for good governance. O God, the fountain of wisdom, whose will is good and gracious, and whose law is truth. We beseech thee so to guide and bless our city governors and authorities in leadership. We pray that the mayor of Columbus and others may enact such laws as shall be peace to everyone. O Lord, our governor, bless this city, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the earth. We pray for the city of Columbus. Heavenly Father, in your word, you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold, visit, we pray, our city of Columbus. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Continue to send us honest and able leaders. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice, with order, and that men and women from different cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. We pray for social and mental conditions in the city. Heavenly Father, we remember before you those who suffer from want and from anxiety, from lack of work. God, the people of this city, and so use our public and private wealth that all may find suitable and fulfilling employment and receive just payment for their labor. We pray for the poor, the neglected, the mentally ill, those who suffer from gun violence. We remember before you, Almighty God, the poor, the neglected persons whom it would be easy for us to forget, the homeless, the destitute, the old, and the sick, and all who have no one to care for them. Help us to heal those who are broken in body or spirit, and to turn their sorrow into joy. We continue to pray for the oppressed. Look with pity, O Heavenly Father, upon the people in this city and who live with injustice, terror, disease, and death as their constant companions. Have mercy upon us. Help us to eliminate our cruelty to these our neighbors. Strengthen those who spend their lives establishing equal protection of the law and equal opportunities for all. And grant that every one of us may enjoy a good portion of the riches. Finally, we pray for our stewardship. Almighty God, whose loving hand hath given us all that we possess, grant us grace that we may honor thee with our substance, and remembering and giving account for which we must one day do, may be faithful stewards of thy bounty. And now, the Lord's Prayer, you may join as you are able or wish. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. May the Lord bless you all now and keep you. May the Lord let his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his own eternal peace this evening and every day. Amen.
Amen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Are there any communications received by the city clerk?
Not at this time.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll go around the dais for resolutions and announcements, starting with Councilmember Bangston.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight, I am really excited to have an announcement. On Saturday is a very, very important day. Saturday is a very, very important day. So I just want to make sure I say to Xavier Kamal Bankston, who turns 2, that Daddy loves you and happy birthday. So that's all I have.
Happy birthday. Sorry, we had supposed to go out of order today, starting with the safety chair, Councilmember Remy.
Thank you so much, Council President Harden, and thank you to my colleagues for allowing us get our chiefs on the way. So I wanted to make sure that we got right to this. I have one resolution this evening. I'd like to invite Chief Happ, Chief Bryant, the safety teams that are here up to the podium as I introduce Resolution 125X 2023 to recognize, designate, and celebrate the inaugural Public Safety Week in Columbus, Ohio from June 25th to July 1st, 2023. In an effort to build relationships between the Columbus community, safety forces, and City Council, I, Councilmember Emmanuel Remy, Chair of the Public Safety Committee, am launching the inaugural Public Safety Week taking place yesterday through Saturday, July 1st. This year, Public Safety Week will take place in the Milo-Grogan community. This week, we couldn't be successful without our outstanding partners at the Milo-Grogan Area Commission, Tridestone Missionary Baptist Church, and Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. Celebrating Public Safety Week builds relationships by addressing the public safety needs of residents and connecting them to high-quality public safety services and resources. The Columbus Department of Public Safety includes 3 divisions: the Division of Fire, Division of Police, and Division of Support Services, with over 1,500 sworn members of the Division of Fire and over 1,800 sworn members of the Division of Police. Our safety forces provide vital care and protection to Columbus residents 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week. It is important that residents of the community also understand how to protect themselves and those around them. Public Safety Week educates and provides life-saving training and resources to participants. Public Safety Week encourages communication throughout the city of Columbus, consisting of community conversations amongst public safety officials, faith-based leaders, and residents of Columbus. Events throughout the Public Safety Week provide training, community conversations, distribution of safety resources, and a day dedicated to service to foster relationships between residents and public safety officials and improve the safety and well-being of Columbus, Ohio. Columbus City Council encourages all residents to participate in the inaugural Public Safety Week and thanks the many sworn and civilian Columbus personnel, residents, and organizations in their community who dedicate their efforts to protecting our communities. I'm super excited to have both chiefs, Chief Happ, Chief Bryant, Public Safety Director Kate Bisciotti, the Tompkins, who have just really been outstanding in the leadership in their community and providing an environment where everybody feels like they are loved, I would say is the best way to put it. No one does it better than you two. But wanted to just say that we had an outstanding event yesterday with our first piece of this, which was a free CPR and NARCAN training. We had an outstanding week ahead of us planned, and that's, community conversation on Wednesday, the block party on Thursday, another one. So we're going to run through some of these slides as we present. I do want to say that it's very easy to find out additional information for the public at publicsafetyweek.com. But I really want to turn it over to Director Bisciotti first, and then let the rest of you speak.
Council
Director.
President Harden, Safety Chair Remy, it is my honor to stand before you today on behalf of the nearly 4,000 public safety professionals serving our city. From our 911 call takers and dispatchers to our police officers, firefighters, and EMTs, to the countless professionals who support their efforts every day. The services they provide are essential. The expertise, dedication, and compassion they bring to the job are unmatched. We ask them to bring their best to the table every day under sometimes very difficult circumstances and often at great personal risk. Again and again, they step up and place themselves between our residents in danger. At the heart of this work is the relationships between first responders and our community. We are nothing without our partnerships. So when we recognize Public Safety Week, we not only salute our public safety personnel, but our Black and neighborhood leaders who step up to work with us. Thanks to all of you, we are a stronger, safer Columbus. Thank you.
City Council, thank you for this honor. I think the director said it all and you said it all as well. I just want people to know how important this collaboration is between not only public safety and the community, but the city. So thank you very much for this honor.
Just wanted to hear me talk, did you, Safety Chairman Brown? President Harding, Councilmember, Safety Chairman Remy, and all the colleagues, thank you for having us here and having us recognize. In my 30 years of serving with the Columbus Division Fire, I've never been more proud of the Division of Fire and Police and Public Safety and Council to collaboratively work together with our communities and reunite us all together and be as one. So thank you so much for this proclamation.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy, for actually doing this Safety Week. President Harding and all the City Council. This is so important to us because what we've learned over the past few years is that every time we invite fire and police out to the community, we learn more about them. The more they learn, the more we learn about them, the more they learn about us. And I think that's really where we're going to find the solutions for the future. So I think these guys are some of the bravest and most humble people I've had the honor to meet. I'm excited about Safety Week, so I hope everybody does join us. Thank you.
I would also like to echo on what Melissa just said. We, the community in Milo Grogan, would like to thank everybody. It is a combined effort. Yesterday, when you both were there with the fire and they were doing the CPR and NARCAN training, you can see how excited the residents were. But they weren't just residents from Milo Grogan. They came from all over the city to participate in that. We all know that you all been taking major stepping stones to deal with the violence that's been going on inside the city of Columbus. I think you are making a strong effort to show the rest of the world what you can do if you all just work together. We appreciate you all and thank you all for everything. And Mr. Remy, my son told me he had the pleasure of seeing you sneaking up the alley the other day to check on one of the seniors. Thank you. That means a lot when you come from out of the seat and get out into the community and actually talk to the pillars of the community, which is our seniors. So we've been hearing about it nonstop, and I think the city is going to hear about this too. So thank you all for everything that you've been doing and what you're going to do, and a special thank you to you two, because it means a lot. We know that your shoulders get beat and whooped on all the time, no matter what happens. To some people, you can never do right, but to us, you're always doing right because you accepted this position and you've been standing up in it ever since. So to all three of you all, we thank you very much for everything. And thank you too for your help and your staff for doing what they've been doing. So thank you all for everything.
Thank you very much, Charles and Melissa, and all of you. Thank you for making this a reality. I mean, there's one thing for certain, that we can't continue to do what we've always done. We have to do things differently. And yesterday in church at Tridestone Missionary Baptist, Pastor Tucker said it best when talking about unity. And it really takes all of us working together collectively, faith leaders, area commission leaders, leaders in the community, parents, kids, police, fire, all of us, to stop this scourge of violence and certainly the gun violence that's out there. So I do want to recognize some of our organizational partners: our Division of Police, Division of Fire, City of Rex and Parks, Milo Grogan Area Commission, Tridestone Missionary Baptist Church, Keep Columbus Beautiful, Axon, and more. The list of events, like I said, are available at publicsafetyweek.com. Everybody is welcome to come as we celebrate this week. The conversation is going to be very important. 68 at the Life Center in Milo. We're going to have the block party from 4 to 7. Looks like the weather's going to be great. Knock on wood. And we'll have a virtual conversation from 12 to 1:30, and then to wrap everything up, a community cleanup from 10 to 1 at Tridestone on Saturday. So we hope that people come out and share in fellowship and share in the connection and building relationships with our first responders. Do any of my colleagues have any comments they'd like to make? Thank you. Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Clerk, please follow the roll.
Bangston, Barresa, Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, Council President. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Rosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. I have two announcements this evening. As we wind down Immigrant Heritage Month, we'll be hosting our last Immigrants Make Columbus Town Hall this Thursday, June 29th, 2023, from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we'll be hosting it in conjunction with the Harmony Project on the north side of Columbus. If you are interested in attending or would like more information, please contact my aide, Amaris Lemus, at ASLEMUS@columbus.gov. And then secondly, we are also keeping our fingers crossed for good weather for this Friday, June 30th at we will be hosting one of the first, I think this is the first, Summer Splash series where our council members will come out and host a pool party in the community. So I will be hosting a pool party at Driving Park Swimming Pool right down the street. Driving Park is actually a pool I used to go to. So you can come and enjoy sun, hopefully it'll be hotter than 79 degrees, cool snacks, and we'll have some music. So if folks are out and about, kids are out and about, please come down to Driving Park on Friday. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Thank you. President Pro Tem. Councilmember Faber.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few announcements and one resolution. Applications are open for the Columbus Youth Council, a program for Columbus City High School juniors and seniors to learn about the functions of local government while gaining invaluable leadership and teamwork skills. Applications can be found at www.columbus.com/CYC. All application materials will be tentatively due this Friday, June 30th. I encourage you to share this program with any rising junior or senior at a Columbus City High School. In 2022, my office hosted the inaugural Housing for All launch and town hall event with the purpose to inform Columbus residents of their rights and protections as tenants and solicit their feedback on future policy initiatives. I'm excited to announce the 2023 Housing for All Forum on Wednesday, July 12th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Columbus State Community College. I would love for all Columbus residents to come and learn more about the city's offerings of housing resources and their housing protections secured by law. The Housing Committee will be holding a hearing tomorrow, Tuesday, June 27th, for 6 community reinvestment area ordinances. Designated in 2019, neighborhoods were placed into one of 3 categories: market ready, ready for revitalization, or ready for opportunity, based on the following criteria: population growth, median household income growth, poverty rate, growth in median rent, housing vacancy rate, and mortgage foreclosure rate. As our city continues to grow, the need for housing affordability is vital. The CRA policy serves to incentivize the creation of affordable housing units and create accessibility for individuals and families. The 6 CRA ordinances include a Southeast CRA amendment, a Far West Broad Street amendment, a Far South CRA amendment, South High Street CRA creation, and Crosswoods CRA creation, and an additional ordinance to fix the technical language of Chapter 4565. Again, tomorrow, June 27th at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers, we will be holding a hearing on these 6 CRA pieces. For more information, it can be found on the city's bulletin. And then last but certainly not least, I'm excited to introduce Resolution 0123X-2023. In 2006, the federal government officially recognized June as being Caribbean American Heritage Month to celebrate the accomplishments of Caribbean Americans and recognize the historical contributions of diversity and cultures within the community. With that, I'd like to invite Ms. Trish Wright and all guests to the podium as I continue to read here. Across the country and within Columbus, the Caribbean American population continues to grow, and it is imperative that the city pursues initiatives that embrace the community and demonstrates our commitment to diversity and inclusion. In 2017, the inaugural Columbus Caribbean Festival marked the first time Caribbean American Heritage Month was celebrated within Columbus. The festival is an event which seeks to bring the culture and heritage of the Caribbean islands to Central Ohio. This year's Columbus Caribbean Festival marks the event's sixth iteration, with activities including Caribbean Community Day, Caribbean Story Time, Caribbean music classes, Caribbean happy hour, and Caribbean dance program, among many others. With that, I'll turn the podium over to Ms. Wright.
Thank you. Oh, let me scoot up a little bit. So my name is Trish Wright. I am the co-founder of the Columbus Caribbean Festival. In 2016, along with my husband, we founded the Columbus Caribbean Festival and began celebrating Caribbean American Heritage Month here in Columbus. Sorry if I'm a little nervous. Since the 2000s, the Caribbean immigrant population has increased by over 50% in the U.S. and continues to grow daily. In 2016, former President Bush declared June Caribbean American Heritage Month and signed a proclamation making the resolution official. This year, we are celebrating the 17th annual Caribbean American Heritage Month. 90% of Caribbeans living in America come from Cuba, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Haiti, and Trinidad and Tobago. Since arriving in the U.S., Caribbeans have excelled in their professions as politicians, teachers, doctors, artists, and restaurateurs. Some well-known Caribbeans are Bob Marley, Usain Bolt, Rihanna, Daddy Yankee, Colin Powell, Cicely Tyson, Malcolm X, and Kamala Harris. Right here in Columbus, we have our own Cheryl Brooks, Morgan Harper, Sandra Lopez, and of course, Councilwomen Lourdes Barrosa de Padilla, are trailblazers who embrace their Caribbean heritage. With rich influences, Caribbeans add to this incredible country with vibrant cultures, languages, traditions, and values that strengthen our country, such as soccer. Of course, there's music like reggae, reggaeton, salsa, and calypso, and of course, food, mofongo, jerk chicken, callaloo, and conch fritters. In the late summer, we will present Caribbean Community Days, and it's going to be a series located in Columbus and surrounding suburbs. And these events will invite attendees out to be immersed in the Caribbean culture with live music, dancing, soccer, and food. And so on behalf of myself, the Caribbean Festival ambassadors, our planning committee, and all Caribbeans living in Columbus, I want to say thank you for this resolution to recognize June as Caribbean Heritage Month. And on the count of three, I would like everybody to join me in saying Happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. 1, 2, 3. Happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And ladies, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your origination, where you're originated from, excuse me. Country of origin, that's the right word.
Not yet.
And so this little one right here is definitely ready to take my job.
Good afternoon, President Hardin, council members. My name is Dr. Sala Webb. I recently relocated to Columbus in 2021 to serve as the Chief Medical Officer for Aetna Better Health of Ohio, Ohio Rise. I am originally from Trinidad and Tobago and very excited to be a part of this Caribbean Heritage Month celebration and helping to enhance the diversity here in Columbus. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole. I've been with the Caribbean Heck Fest for 2 years, and I kind of represent and study Guyana.
My name is Simone. I'm one of the ambassadors for the Caribbean Festival. I represent the country for Dominica. I'm actually from South Carolina. I'm also serving in the military, and I've been with her for about 6 years now.
Hi, thank you. My name's Kimberly Randall, and I'm an ambassador. I've been involved with the festival since 2019, and I represent the Bahamas.
My name is Deandra Wright, and I'm an ambassador for Jamaica, and I'm actually from Jamaica, so I'm excited about this. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Ms. Wright, if folks want to find out some more information about the festival, where do they go?
ColumbusCaribbeanFestival.com.
Wonderful. Are there any additional questions or comments by my colleagues? Well, Councilmember Barrosa de Padilla.
I mean,
I'm looking
come
right
on,
at you.
it's my month, people, it's my month. I just want to say thank you for all all that you ladies do to represent our culture, to represent the Caribbean, to represent the vast diversity of the Caribbean, so that people know that literally all of us in this room could be from this region of the world. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the best, but I'm just saying. But I think like the music, the culture, the food is just so significant to who we are and lives in our DNA. And so keeping this alive, it helps to ensure that Columbus stays a place where people find a sense of belonging, where they don't have to make choices of leaving parts of themselves when they choose Columbus as their home. And it makes all of us better for it. It enriches, this makes Columbus a place where people want to be because of the richness of the different cultures that are here in Columbus. So thank you for keeping that spirit alive. Also, I'm sad that y'all did not come in with your dancing gear on, because if you haven't seen it yet and you don't know anything about a Caribbean carnival, you definitely need to go to the festival.
Or did not bring some mofongo for all of us to.
Or that.
Because if you weren't hungry before, you're hungry now.
True stories.
Right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. With that, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. The only announcement I have is that in observance of America's birthday, 4th of July, we will not have council next week, so council will reconvene on the 10th. So happy 4th of July as we close out this Juneteenth month. With that, are there any comments from our elected officials? No? No. Are there requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of titles of 30-day legislation by the clerk? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
Thank you, clerk. Will the clerk now read into the record ordinance numbers of 30 days legislation on tonight's agenda?
Economic Development Committee, ordinances 1696, 1697, 1757, 1758, 1763, 1849, 1850, 1851, 1870-2023. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 122, X-2023, ordinances 1442 and 1780-2023. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinance 1730-2023. Education Committee, ordinance 1781-2023. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1398, 1454, 1470, 1519, 1530, 1600, 1606, 1609, 1611, 1615, 1664, 1723, and 1724-2023. Workforce Development Committee, ordinance 1809-2023. Housing Committee, ordinances 1762, 1841, 1843, 1844, 1845-2023. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinances 1740, 1764-2023. Public Safety Committee, ordinances 1593, 1639, 1672, 1683-2023. Environment Committee, ordinance 1667-2023. Finance Committee, ordinances 1445, 1725, 1729-2023. Rules and Reference Committee, ordinance 1839-2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one speaker on first reading portion of the agenda. Rosemary Williams is, welcome to council, Ms. Rosemary. Just a reminder that you have 3 minutes.
I know.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Rosemary Williams, and I'm on the BREAD Organization's Housing Committee. We know that Next Gen recognizes that, quote, there is a significant supply of underutilized land and properties in communities in need of economic stimulation, end quote. We want to applaud Columbus City Council for the millions of dollars allocated so far in emergency rental assistance and affordable housing. More is needed. In fact, some of the remaining dollars could be utilized in rehabilitating old hotels and motels into affordable housing, as shown by research from the Community Shelter Board. We're here today because there are people who will sleep on the streets tonight, or in tents, or in their car, because housing is too expensive, and this is not acceptable. Our focus is on families that make less than $30,000 a year. There are people who take care of our children and grandchildren. They keep our offices and schools clean. They make our food at local restaurants. They assemble parts in factories and fill orders in warehouses. We know that you agree with us that the people need affordable housing too. In fact, last week, the Columbus Dispatch reported that only 3 of the top 10 jobs in Ohio pay enough to afford housing. We're sure that you also saw in the Dispatch last week that there has been a 20% increase in homelessness just since last year, and food banks are seeing an unprecedented need for assistance. Columbus has a unique opportunity for a big investment into affordable housing with the American Rescue Plan dollars. We learned at the ARPA hearings held in the council chambers here that there was $70 million remaining. And we also heard that the direction of this money is still to be determined. Well, we can help with that direction. We want to see the city put at least another $30 million of that money into affordable housing. And what do we mean by affordable? Affordable for families who make $30,000 or less. As we approach Independence Day, we ask the question, how can people truly be independent if they don't have an affordable place to live? We want to remind you that as you celebrate the upcoming holiday in your homes, we have a little token to help you remember. And can we bring these up now? Yes. Just little flags. We would be happy to meet with Councilmember Favor, Councilmember Dorans, Councilmember Barroso de Padilla, and Council President Hardin to discuss this further. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Is there any questions or comments for Ms. Williams? We appreciate your advocacy. Thank you. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent actions. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 127X, 124X, 121X, 126X-2023. Economic Development Committee, ordinances 1503, 1666, 1674, 1675, 1699, 1761, 1813, 1814-2023. Small and Minority Business Committee, ordinances 1751 and 1754. 2023 Technology Committee, ordinances 1644, 1820-2023. Public Service and Transportation Committee, ordinances 1364, 1533, 1578, 1579, 1580, 1610, 1613, 1760, and 1773-2023. Neighborhoods and Immigrant, Refugee, and Migrant Affairs Committee, ordinances 225, 1499, 1712, 1738, 1765, 1767-2023. Veterans, Senior, and Disability Affairs Committee, ordinance 1571, 1708, 1709-2023. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinance 1418-2023. Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1434, 1452, 1592, 1634, 1774, 1775, 1776, 1786-2023. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, ordinances 1196, 1716, 1717-2023. Health and Human Services Committee, ordinances 1655 and 1736-2023. Public Safety Committee, ordinances 1753, 1792, 1795-2023. Environment Committee, ordinances 1617 and 1706-2023. Finance Committee, ordinances 1619 and 1632-2023. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0 133, 134, and 135-2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have two speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. First speaker to come before council is Mr. Nate Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins is speaking in favor of ordinance 1712 in the Neighborhoods Committee. Welcome, sir.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Lethane, George Wilkins. First of all, I just want to say something about this Eastland Mall And I would think it's not enough money, but I am going to be requesting for $375 million. Is because this is one of the been in business for 54 years, and I just want you to imagine, this is a wise opportunity. I looked on the Columbus Dispatch when this was closed, and here we are. If we're going to wrap our hands around this, we want to wrap our hands around this now. The $375 million just to tear down and give those people that live in that area, not just around Eastland Mall, but around South Hamilton Road, since Kroger's have left out there. And what I come to find out, you have a lot of apartment complexes, a lot of elderly and disability people in that vicinity of that area. And what I come to find out here, you have a store called Sharaga and Family Dollar and Dollar Tree. And you have these people, you know, it's just something like Linden. We lost a grocery store in Northern Lights. There was bus service that crosses to Morris Road. But when I went out there to that Kroger store, people was just devastated. I had talked to a lot of employees. They left and went to other jobs and things and stuff like that. But if something's going to be done, we want something unique. Unique is something that's different for that particular area. Not this Eastland Mall, but it wraps the whole area around that area, and also Refugee Road. And so again, I'm questioning for $375 million just to tear down and to get the stakeholders involved, the residents involved that lives out there in that area, and also the elderly population. I'll close at that time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. And we believe that Ms. Quay also is here to speak on this too. So before we respond, we'll have both speakers. So the next speaker to come before council is Ms. Quay Barnes from the Mideast Area Commission and or the MAC, speaking on 1712 as well. Welcome.
President Hardin and City Council members, good evening. My name is Quay Barnes, and I have the honor of being the chair of the Mideast Area Commission. With me today, as always, are Jennifer Chamberlain, Chair of the Far East Area Commission, and Vangela Barnes, Chair of the Greater Southeast Area Commission. Together as the Greater East Side Coalition, we represent over 160,000 residents. We're joined today by, where's Ms. Ava? Okay, she's gonna stay back there. We're joined today by Ava Johnson, who is the past chair of the Greater Southeast Area Commission. Ava has devoted many years to help us reach today's landmark. We have asked her to continue with me and others in this process. Together, all of us wish to thank you for funding the MKSK, the consultant for this great project. We appreciate the support extended today and for future East Side investments to come. You see, it all started in 2007, folks, with the community and city effort called the Hamilton Road Corridor Eastern Area Revitalization Plan. The introduction to this plan said in part, encouraged by engaged neighborhood residents, the city embarked upon this planning process designed to generate a revitalization plan for the corridor. The goal of the plan was to provide a framework for the Hamilton Road Corridor Eastland area to become a new center of vitality and attracting new entertainment uses, business and personal services, office, research and development, along with residential and mixed-use developments while serving as an exciting public draw and destination for residents and visitors. Our desires for this area have not changed, nor has our dedication and commitment to the Eastland area. Thank you to the Department of Public Service for the Hamilton Road infrastructure improvement work, which is preparing for this effort. We'd also like to thank the Department of Neighborhoods, the Neighborhood Program Specialist, Noel Britt, Neighborhood Strategies Manager, Patrice Allen Brady, and Director Carla Williams-Scott for their professionalism, their open-mindedness, and dedication in moving this project forward. And to our neighborhood liaison, Lynn LaCour, whose guidance the East Side Coalition relies on each and every day. We're excited, we're ready, let's go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. I can think of, we should have filmed that for the commercial around this effort. As a fellow lifelong East Sider and someone who still lives on the East Side, I can say on a very personal note, I'm very excited about what could come to this area. And it is a long time coming. And so what I want to do is I would love to hand it over to Director Carla Williams-Scott. Can you, Director, for just a second, let folks know, for folks who may have not been, this is similar to the plans we did around Linden, around the Hilltop. Can you just give folks just a sneak peek of what the process is going to be and what they can look forward to in the next coming, year or two as we start in this planning process, and then what happens after and how they can get engaged and involved?
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Barroso de Padilla and members of council, and thank you to our area commission chairs. You're right, this is a long time coming, and we're very excited. Hopefully with the passage of this legislation this evening, we will enter into a contract with MKSK, who was the selected vendor they won the bid out of 13 organizations that applied or responded to the RFP. And so over the next 18 months, we will work with them to develop a scope of work. And the highlight of the plan is extensive community engagement. And when we say extensive, in our plans in Linden and Hilltop, we did community engagement for close to a year. And that's several meetings with members of the community, evenings, weekends, and they really are the backbone of what comes out of the plan. Because as I always say to our residents, we're doing a plan with you and not to you. And so as we move forward with our contracted vendor, we'll be happy to share opportunities for to participate in community engagement throughout this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. So I just wanted to also address, Mr. Wilkins, do not despair. This initial funding is just for the initial phase of the project. More will be coming. I think this is no better partnership than when I look at this area commission, who has been longtime advocates of this area and partnering together with our residents along the East Side corridor to how we can dream together and work together to really bring that area of the city back to life. It really is a main corridor of the East Side, and we could even back it all the way up. Let me stop right now because I know this is not what this time is for, but I just wanted to say thank you, Director, and wanted to be sure that we address some of the concerns that were brought up. So, Council President.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve these items designated consent? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Bankston.
Yes, with the exception of appointment 0133, 0134, 0135-2023, from which I'm abstaining.
Ms. Barroso de Padilla.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Dorns.
Yes.
Ms. Favor.
Yes, with the exception of 1751, 0225, 1684, 2023, from which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Remy. Yes. President Harden.
Yes. Consent portion of the agenda carries. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day postponed and emergency legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Bankston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First up in the Economic Development Committee tonight, for second reading, we have ordinance 1857-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to accept and execute a private grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation in an amount up to $2 million under their Monuments Project program for the city's Reimagining Columbus project, to authorize the appropriation of up to $2 million of the Mellon Foundation grant from the private grant fund upon receipt of the grant funds as follows: $250,000 for personnel and $750,000 for professional services in 2023 and $1 million in 2024, and to declare an emergency. We are really excited about this piece of legislation and this opportunity. Last week, the Mellon Foundation announced that Columbus is among 9 cities awarded funding through its Monuments Project. Launched in 2020, the purpose of the Monuments Project is to transform the nation's commemorative landscape by supporting public projects that more completely and accurately present the multiplicity and complexity of American stories. On tonight's agenda, this ordinance, 1857-2023, allows the City of Columbus to accept this private grant, and the next ordinance, 1859-2023, allows the City of Columbus to contract with Designing Local, which has identified a team of historians, indigenous architects and designers, and diversity and inclusion advisors who will partner with the city to shepherd this process forward. The $2 million private grant awarded to the City of Columbus will enable us to engage residents, conduct research into colonial and contemporary history, and leverage best practices in placemaking to assess the future disposition of the city's Christopher Columbus statue, which was given to Columbus by our sister city, Genoa, in 1955. We as a city have a responsibility to tell the truth about colonialism and about racism. This grant provides us with private funding to join an effort happening across the country to educate on Columbus's legacy and the impacts of colonialism on indigenous people, and declare who we are and what we value as a community in light of this difficult history. So with that being said, I want to be very clear. One, the Christopher Columbus statue will not be returning to City Hall. It's not the proper context for it. Two, the community engagement process that I just described will inform the decision on what happens to the statue. But more importantly, three, this process will help us to redefine who we are and what art will replace it to reflect who Columbus is today. And so with us tonight in Chambers to speak to this is the city's acceptance of the Mellon Grant. We have with us Ms. Marijn Vanderheinden, I believe is here. She is the chair of the Columbus Art Commission. And as she comes, I just want to reiterate, we heard loud and clear from the public that they did not want to see city money used on this. But we know that this is a larger issue that is facing so many cities across this country. And so with the Mellon Foundation opportunity coming available, provided us an opportunity to get private funding to have this more broader conversation, not only about, again, a statue, but about who we are as a city and how we better reflect that here at City Hall, but also across our city. So with that, Ms. Marijn, I will turn the podium over to you. And hopefully I said it correctly.
You did. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Thank you, council members, Council President Hardin. Thank you to the broad alliance of support that is formed around supporting public art in Columbus. Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Bankston. I'm Marijn Vanderheiden. As you mentioned, I currently serve as the chair of the Columbus Art Commission. I'm also director of Ohio State University's Urban Art Space. So just a few years ago, in 2020, in the wake of protests over racism, police violence, and recognizing the patriarchy, divisiveness, and oppression that the Christopher Columbus statue represented for many in our community, Mayor Ginter announced that he was removing the statue from City Hall campus and placing it in storage. The mayor also tasked the Columbus Art Commission with launching a community-driven process evaluating diversity and inclusiveness of all public arts and monuments in our city, determining the disposition of the Columbus statue and identifying gaps. During that time, the Mellon Foundation, the largest humanities philanthropy in the United States, also pledged $250 million over 5 years to help reimagine the country's approach to monuments and memorials, to help with better reflecting the nation's diversity and highlight buried or marginalized histories. Just last week, and you shared that story, of course, the announcement came that Columbus was among 9 cities who won a grant. I want to reiterate, this is private funding, so no taxpayer dollars. Columbus is really in the company with other cities like Chicago, Boston, LA, so it's a really prestigious grant. Through the monuments and memorials that mark them, our civic spaces are where many of us first learn about the American story, said Elizabeth Alexander, the president of the Mellon Foundation. She also said, We want to ask how we can help think about how to give form to the beautiful and extraordinary and powerful multiplicity of American stories. So, among other committees, the Columbus Art Commission, under the guidance of then-Chair Diane Nance and City Administrator Lori Boudreau, engaged the Christopher Columbus Statue Committee and began conversations with this group back in 2021. Much of the early work involved recognizing difficult histories and feelings about what should be commemorated, what stories should be told, and thinking about what forms monuments can take. Through the Mellon Grant, we will now be able to take the next step and open this conversation up to the entire community to join us in an inclusive discussion led by Designing Local that will allow us to re-envision how we project ourselves to the world and create a symbolic landscape that more closely resembles our shared values and aspirations for our future. Personally, and certainly on behalf of the Columbus Arts Commission, between the Mellon funding and our ongoing work with the Greater Columbus Arts Council on our city's inaugural public art plan, I am just beyond excited for the momentum this is creating for public art in our city. I will say that for me, the arts connect people, not only because people can go to an exhibition or a film or a performance together, but also because they talk about it, about the shared experience that engages us in meaningful and civic ways. Arts and artists excel, often in a mutual, beneficial way, inciting increased excellence and creating new opportunities for community engagement and expression. Quality, diversity, and accessibility of art also contribute to our moral intelligence, providing consolation when we face adversity and building civic prosperity and mutual involvement. I want to invite really all of us, residents, to join in this process. We can design together thoughtful and representative civic spaces together. This is the promise of our joint investment. I'm feeling optimistic about the opportunities that lie ahead because of this grant and because of our collective investments and our broad support. Finally, I would like to thank Councilmembers Bankston, Barroso de Padilla, and Remy, for their guidance and collaboration on this work. I would also like to thank Deputy Director Jennifer Fenning, members of the Christopher Columbus Statue Committee, and members of the Columbus Art Commission for their vision and dedication to this important work. Thank you for your leadership and your collaboration.
Thank you, Chair Vander Heiden, for all your work. So I invite our residents to join in this process. We want to hear all perspectives on this matter so we can design thoughtful and representative spaces. And be clear, I think that we know that the history of this country is a painful one, and we can't just simply erase it or hide it. We have to figure out a way of how we talk about this collectively as a community, because that is who we are. It is our history, it's our shared history, but it's also our shared pain. And so we invite the community to thoroughly engage. Whatever your viewpoint is on this subject, we want to hear from you. But more importantly, we want to craft together what represents us as a people. Because Columbus is not a statue. It is not about a man or a person. But Columbus is its people and the spirit of that people. And so we hope that that is reflective in this work. We do expect to begin community engagement this winter, but you can also share your comments now and learn more about this initiative at reimaginingcolumbus.com. Before I move for passage, I want to see if there's any comments or questions from my colleagues. Also, I want to give an opportunity for Deputy Director Fenning, if you have any comments on behalf of the Department of Development.
Council President Hardin, Chair Bankston, I want to thank this council for your leadership and your guidance throughout this whole process. we look forward to moving into this opportunity through the generous funding of the Mellon Foundation. I want to reiterate Marian's thanks to the Art Commission and to the members of the public who have participated in the steering committee thus far, and reiterate the invitation to join, for the public to join this process.
All right. Thank you again, Deputy Director, to your team for going to seek, again, this private funding so that we can move this conversation forward. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. And finally, in Economic Development Committee, we have ordinance 1859-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a contract with Designing Local LTD in an amount up to $750,000 for the purpose of project management, community engagement, landscape architecture, and facilitating the community in public discussion about the future disposition of the Christopher Columbus statue in accordance with the monument's project scope, to waive the competitive bidding requirements of City Code, Chapter 329, to authorize the expenditure of $750,000 from the Department of Development's Mellon Foundation grant budget, and to declare an emergency. Again, the last piece of legislation, we accepted the Mellon Foundation. This piece of legislation is executing the first expenditure of that. Competitive bidding was being requested to be waived because we were engaged with Designing Local in the application process so they can continue this work. Before I move for passage, I do see that we have a speaker, Mr. Michael Kramer. Mr. Kramer, welcome to council. Please, again, state your name, any organization that you do represent, and you have 3 minutes.
Sure, my name's Michael Kramer, and thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me today. I appreciate it. So I'm here in opposition of item 1859, and really specifically and urge the council to perhaps amend item 1859. So first I want to say I'm a PhD candidate in history at Ohio State University. I specialize in Native American history. I've even taught a course in Introduction to Native American History last semester. So I'm here because this item specifically talks about the disposition of the Christopher Columbus statue. And while the previous item discussed that this would not be reinstalled on the city council grounds, which I think is excellent, any sort of process that might lead the public to say we should reinstall the statue in another prominent public space, I think would be really moving our city backwards. I don't believe that should be an option for this program, and I don't believe the Reimagining Columbus program needs the Christopher Columbus statue to be reinstalled anywhere in public space. And that's really different from a statue being installed in public space to it being in a museum where it can be properly interpreted. And I wanted to emphasize as well some very important historical facts about Columbus that members of the public might not know, because it's not properly taught in our schools, and it's not properly taught unfortunately, in history textbooks. So we all know Christopher Columbus sailed the Atlantic and informed Europe about his quote-unquote discovery of the New World. But he also did a lot of other things. On the island of Hispaniola, he committed many crimes against the Taino people and led a genocidal campaign against them. Under modern international law, he would have been brought up before The Hague. Even among the barbaric laws of Spain, he was brought publicly to Spain in chains. Among many of his crimes, Columbus personally enslaved thousands of Taínos and Arawak peoples. He regularly captured and tortured people to find gold on the island of Hispaniola. He was also a slave trader and shipped hundreds of indigenous peoples back to Spain for a profit. As governors of Hispaniola, Columbus and his brother implemented a regime of slavery, forcing the Taínos to pay for gold, working hundreds of thousands to death. This was enforced through terror, including public executions throughout many villages in Hispaniola. Scholars estimate that in the short time of Columbus' governorship, he might have been directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of 7.5 million people. So I really want to emphasize the Reimagining Columbus program is a great one. I think it's a great idea, and I really am impressed by what the council has done, as well as with community leaders. But I just want to emphasize, this cannot lead to the reinstallation of the Columbus statue. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Kramer. And I hope that, especially someone with your expertise, engages in this process. And I think that the goal is to make sure that that context is captured, because it can't be, again, something that's not set in context. So thank you again for your testimony. Director, did you want to add any additional comments or answer any questions?
I echo your sentiment that that's just what the Mellon Foundation is trying to do through the Monuments Project, is to make sure that these truths are brought to light and that we have an opportunity to educate our community about Christopher Columbus's history, and also to uplift stories that haven't been told in our commemorative landscape, including indigenous communities that were removed from the state of Ohio entirely to tell their stories in a more prominent way. So we welcome this kind of engagement. These are the conversations that we want to have. We want to bring experts to the community to do more education of this kind. So we certainly welcome participation from everyone in this regard as we move this work forward.
Thank you. At this time, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
And that is all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee come for Council's Public Service Transportation Committee. Committee is chaired by Councilmember Rosa de Padilla. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. I have a number of items today in Public Service and Transportation, starting with Ordinance 1597-2023 to appropriate funds within the Federal Transportation Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Dan Britt Incorporated for the intersection improvements Morse Road at Westerville Road project to authorize the expenditure of up to $4,184,359.27 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund and the Federal Transportation Grants Fund for the project to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period and to declare an emergency. This project improves the intersection of Westerville Road at Morse Road via the addition of a westbound right turn lane, a second southbound turn lane, and a new traffic signal with adjusted phasing and optimized timing. The project includes widening along the east side of Westerville Road and north side of Morse Road, pavement resurfacing, street lighting, fire hydrant modifications, stormwater drainage, new sidewalks and/or curb ramps, new signage, and pavement markings and other work as necessary. Deputy Director Skoko, is there anything you'd like to add about this particular project? I know there's a number of big ones that I'll refer to you, so if there's not for this one, that's fine. Good. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1649-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contract purchase agreement for the purchase of 4 CNG single-access dump trucks from FIDA Freightliner Columbus Incorporated to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,135,840 from the Municipal Motor Vehicle Tax Fund and to declare an emergency. The division is responsible for plowing snow and spreading salt during the winter season. This will be for purchasing 4 single-axle dump trucks to replace 4 vehicles which have reached the end of their useful life. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Thank you.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next ordinance, 1653-2023, to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contract purchase agreement for the purchase of 1 single-access 4 tandem access live body dump trucks with snow equipment from FIDA Freightliner Columbus to authorize the expenditure of $1,754,989 from the Municipal Motor Vehicle Tax Fund and to declare an emergency. The Division of Infrastructure Management has a need to purchase 1 single-axle vehicle and 4 tandem-axle live-body dump trucks with snow and ice equipment for the purpose of maintaining the roads. These will be used for filling potholes, street sweeping, mowing, alley resurfacing, and snow and ice removal. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Great. Next ordinance, 1732, 2023, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Complete General Construction Company for the Bikeway Development, Worthington Woods Boulevard Shared Use Path, that's Sankis Boulevard to Deer Creek Drive project, to authorize the expenditure of $3,171,464.78 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund for the project and to declare an emergency. This project consists of approximately 7,700 feet of shared use path on the southeast side of Worthington Woods Boulevard from Sanctus Boulevard to Park Road, and along the south side of Park Road from Worthington Woods Boulevard to Deer Creek Drive. That's the north intersection. Additionally, this includes the installation of sidewalks, storm sewer facilities, curb and gutter, pedestrian signal facilities, and lighting and other works as may be necessary. Deputy Director, would you like to add anything about this exciting project?
Chair Barosa de Padilla, President Harden, other members of council, thank you this evening. We too are very excited about this project. It is a part of a greater regional vision in that area, working with our neighbors in Worthington to eventually connect the Olentangy River Trail up to the Alum Creek Trail. So it is a key part of that regional network.
Thank you. Anytime we're using shared pathways to keep people safe is always very exciting. So do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
Great. Ordinance 17, told you there was a lot. 1797, 2023, to authorize the transfer and appropriation within various funds to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service to enter into contract with Shelley and Sands Incorporated for the State Route 161 Interstate 71 to Cleveland Avenue Phase 1, Part 2 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $8,920,419.48 from the various funds of the project to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period and to declare an emergency. So this is included within the first phase of the series of projects, so we'll make improvements to 161 between I-71 and Cleveland Avenue, focus on the side streets north and south of I-61. Improvements to State Route 61 include replacement of the existing traffic signals at the intersection of Parkville Street, Spring Run Drive, installing shared use paths, curb ramps, and street lightings, side street improvements along Parkville Street, and Spring Run Drive include reconstruction, widening, resurfacing of the pavement, curb, sidewalk, raised median, installation of 2 urban mini roundabouts, street lighting, and storm sewers, and the addition of pedestrian and bike facilities from Maple Canyon to Cleveland Avenue. So, Deputy Director, again, this has been part of a much larger phased project along that Cleveland Avenue corridor. Can you just tell us a little bit more about these investments?
Yep. Thank you again. This is an important project that is, as you said, the first phase that will eventually go from Cleveland Avenue all the way over to Bush Boulevard. It also includes a shared use path on both sides of 161 on the north and the south side. And that is going to be eventually a part of an urban trail that is a part of the Central Ohio Greenways network as well. This project is being done for safety purposes and fits into the greater Vision Zero purpose.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. And the last ordinance in public service this evening is 1810, 2023, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into a professional services contract with Roadway Asset Services for the resurfacing pavement management services 2023 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,441,076 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to pay for this contract and to declare an emergency. So this project will provide the City of Columbus Department of Public Service a pavement management system as a network of level planning tool for roadway maintenance activities that supports the concept of pavement preservation program. So basically, this is a study that we are going to do to understand the road conditions around the City of Columbus, and then it will help us make determinations about how we repave or prioritize repaving of streets within the city. Deputy Director, did I do a good job of breaking that down?
Councilmember, you did a great job.
Great. A+ to me. So very exciting. I know folks have had lots of questions about the repaving process. This is key in helping us determine the next phase for the future of how we determine the phases in which we do some repaving, which I know we heard lots from the community about roadways and repaving. So do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. May I move to Neighborhoods, Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Affairs?
Please.
So I will introduce this passage and then, or introduce this ordinance, and then I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues. So ordinance 1684, 2023, to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with the Community Arts Project Incorporated doing business at the King Arts Complex for the support of their 25th annual Heritage Music Festival, and to authorize an appropriation expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. I'd like to call Javon Collins to the podium as I kind of go through a little bit of the background. The Heritage Music Festival honors the rich historical, artistic, and entrepreneurial tradition of African Americans in Columbus, Ohio. The King Lincoln District is the home for the event, but the event honors all communities that have and continue to be a part of Columbus African American history. It is a free, family-friendly concert series welcome to all residents. The festival, approaching its 25th year, is designed to enrich and improve the lives of those in the King Lincoln District, as well as fostering enhanced understanding and harmony via the arts. So I don't know how many I've missed, but it's been incredibly few. And then last year we were in Atlanta for one that got rained out. So fortunately I got to go because you extended it a week. And so this is something that I love doing year in and year out. And as we approach this 25th year, I thought it was worth celebrating. And so excited to have you down tonight, Javon, to talk more about what's in store this year, what people can expect, and looking forward to hearing myself.
All right. Well, thank you, Council Member. Thank you, Council. On behalf of our Executive Director, Demetrius Nilly, we're honored and thankful for your support of the Heritage Music Festival. Entering 25 years, I've been a part of all of them except for 8. I actually met my wife there, so it's meant very much to me. It's just an important event, but it's for the community and for Columbus to have an event of this nature, to be here 25 years in the historic King Lincoln District is just a blessing. And for the King Arts Complex to continue that for all of these years since that summer of 1998, I'm just honored to be a part of it. So we're going to have some great concerts, bringing back all of the favorites from local performers, and also have the great activations that we have for the entire family. It's a free family event, so we invite you all to come out beginning on Thursday, July 13th. And I brought along my board member, Dr. Ted McDaniel, to share some information as well.
Thank you, and good evening.
Good evening.
I am a member of the board, and I'm honored to have the opportunity just to say some very, very brief words. First of all, thank you to President Harden, City Council members, for your support, particularly of the Heritage Music Festival, but also to say thank you for supporting the King Arts Complex. It's the major institution in the city that carries the responsible honor of bearing the name of Martin Luther King, Jr., one of the most important historical figures. I don't need to say any more than that. We take that very seriously. What this Heritage Festival does is celebrate. It's hard for me to talk about history without talking about culture, and I certainly can't talk about culture without talking about music, and I can't talk about music without talking about the rich tradition of African American music, and that is what we present with these concerts. Outstanding artists, we bring together the community, gives us an opportunity to engage, just to hang out, just to have a good time. It is wonderful to see thousands of predominantly black citizens in the audience having a good time, smiling, high-fiving, some of them getting up, dancing, and celebrating this rich blues-based tradition. And what's important about that is that we have strong support and evidence for the blues being the most influential and impactful musical genre of the 20th century. Without the blues, we wouldn't have jazz. We wouldn't have R&B. We wouldn't have soul. We wouldn't have reggae. You youngsters, we wouldn't have hip-hop without the blues. And we wouldn't have country music. But I simply say that this is an opportunity for the King Arts Complex to present the arts. That's what the institution's primary responsibility is for this community, to present the arts, visual arts, dance, as well as music, and to educate and uplift. These concerts allow for engagement, and it brings the community together, and what a wonderful way to celebrate. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Javon, if people want to find out more about it, where should they go to get information?
Just log on to our website, kingartscomplex.com. All the information is on there.
Excellent. There wouldn't be a Thursday in July and August without former Mayor Coleman leading the wobble, actually.
Yeah.
So looking forward to many of those to come. Thank you so much, Javon, Doctor, for coming down tonight. Councilmember Brosadibia.
Yes, a word to the wise, if you've never been, get your chair spot early, because folks will camp out at the festival. So do any of our other colleagues have questions or comments? Great, seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Mr. Bangston,
Yes?
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Dorans, Ms. Favor, Mr. Remy, President Harden.
Yes, ordinance is passed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Looking forward to a great festival. Thank you. Council President, can I move along to Veteran and Senior Disability Affairs? The following two ordinances in Veteran, Senior, and Disability Affairs support our pre-admission screening system, providing options and resources today, also known as Passport. Passport provides home care services and an alternative to nursing home admission for Medicare-eligible clients to help keep our older adults in their homes. Approximately 8,700 clients are currently being served by the Central Ohio Area on Aging, COAAA, under the Passport program. Services include case management, adult daycare, home care, meals, personal care, respite, transportation, and emergency response. This is an amazing program that helps to ensure that our older adults can stay at home and age in place safely with the support that they need. So the first ordinance for Passport is Ordinance 1574-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Recreation and Parks to appropriate the amount of $538,000 within the, I messed that whole number up, within the Recreation and Parks Grant Fund for the Recreation and Parks Department to provide home care and assisted living services to older adults in connection with the pre-admission screening system, providing options and resources today, Medicare waiver program in Central Ohio, and to declare an emergency. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. And the second ordinance is 1576-2023 to authorize and direct the Director of the Department of Recreation and Parks to enter into contracts with the agencies listed on the attachment hereto for the provision of the Passport program. Home care and assisted living services for older adults in Central Ohio, to authorize the expenditure of $97 million from the Recreation and Parks Grant Fund, and to declare an emergency. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
And that is all for me this evening, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's keep going. Next committee to come before council is Recreation and Parks Committee. Committee is chaired by Councilmember Brown. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. This evening I have two ordinances. The first ordinance is Ordinance 1406-2023 to authorize the Director of the Department of Recreation and Parks to enter into various contracts for management of the Urban Forestry Master Plan, to authorize and direct the City Auditor to establish auditor's certificates in the amount of $1,500,000 for various expenditures in conjunction with the management of the Urban Forestry Master Plan and to authorize the expenditure of $1,500,000 from the Recreation and Parks Voted Bond Fund. The Columbus Urban Forestry Master Plan is the first citywide strategic plan to invest in long-term in Columbus trees. I have Assistant Director Don Turnage here with us to provide background. Director?
Thank you. Thank you, President Harden, Chair Brown. With this legislation enables hiring of staff, equipment purchase, and contracted vendors. As we continue to grow our tree canopy, this funding will support the opening of the North Maintenance Zone. Annually, our goal is to plant 4,000 trees collectively through contracted vendors and staff, which each contractor will go through a bidding process for the support.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? Councilman Remy?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Brown. Just wanted to point out that we passed this in 2021 and been really pleased with the work that the department's doing. Rosalie Herndon is doing a great job in this regard. We've invested almost $4.5 million so far, and this is even more to get things rolling off the ground. We have a lot of work to do, but it's all part of our Sustainable Columbus goals, and so we're going to make sure that, especially from an equity perspective, that we are planting trees in this city as needed. So thank you very much. Very supportive of the legislation.
Thank you, Councilman Remy. Any other comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Also, I have ordinances 1719, 2023, to authorize and direct the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into a one-year agreement with Class Acts Columbus to provide talent buying, fiscal agent, and event management services for events produced by the Office of Special Events, to authorize the expenditure of $125,000 from the Recreation Parks Operating Fund and $55,000 from the Property Management Fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code and to declare an emergency. Again, Assistant Director Turnage, would you address the issue of the bid waiver?
Yes, and again, thank you, President Harden and Chair Brown. This legislation is requesting Class Acts, whom is an entertainment production company that manages our local and national performers that particularly participate in our citywide special events. We have worked with this organization since 2001, and a new RFP will be posted in 2024 throughout our vendor services division.
Again, if there are any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Council President, for your permission, may I move on to education?
Please.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ordinance 1475, 2023, to authorize the Director of Office of Education to enter a 2023 ESC summer programming contracts with high-quality pre-kindergarten organizations that provide high-quality education services, to authorize the expenditure of $773,250 from the general fund and to waive competitive bidding. I move to postpone to July 10th, and I ask for a 2023 for a voice vote.
Is there a second? Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bangston,
Yes.
Ms. Barosa Padilla,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Dorans, Ms. Favor, Mr. Remy, President Harden.
Yes, postpone.
That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a motion to recess? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
We will reconvene in 5 minutes for zoning. 3 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
We will now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorans chairs that committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, first a little bit of housekeeping. Will the clerk please read the numbers of the legislation in the zoning committee this evening that require waiver of second reading?
Ordinances 1787, 1796, 184, 1756, and 1788-2023.
Thank you, clerk. I now move to waive second reading on those items read aloud.
Is there a second? Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you. Now, allow me to briefly explain our current rules pertaining to speaking before council on rezonings and council variances. We only hear staff presentations for ordinances that have a disapproval from a recommending body, or if we have a public speaker signed up to speak against an ordinance. All speakers on the council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives of an area commission and applicants are always able to speak on an ordinance and do not need to fill out a speaker slip. This evening, we have 6 public speaker slips filled out. On the advice of the city attorney's office, I will now swear in city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the pains or penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Joseph Rose from the Department of Building and Zoning Services and Daniel Moorhead from the Department of Public Service have been sworn in. First, we have ordinance 1787-2023 to rezone 400 East Campus View Boulevard, being 12.20 plus acres located in the north side of East Campus View Boulevard, 500 plus feet east of Crosswells Drive, from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Campus Views Endeavors LLC, care of Dave Perry agent. Proposed use a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. Development Commission's recommendation is also approval. The Far North Columbus Communities Coalition recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1796-2023 to rezone 1790 Harmon Avenue, being 19.05 plus acres located on the east side of Harmon Avenue, 2,200 plus feet north of North Frank Road from R Rural District to M Manufacturing District. The applicant is Harmon Avenue LLC, care of Jackson Brown Attorney. Proposed use is a manufacturing uses. City's Department recommendation is approval. Development Commission's recommendation is approval. Southwest Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 0184-2023 to rezone 155 McNaughton Road, being 7.87 plus acres located on the west side of McNaughton Road, 900 plus south of Riverton Road from RRR Restricted Rural Residential District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Metro Development LLC, care of Jeffrey Brown Attorney. Proposed use a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. Development Commission's recommendation is disapproval, 4-3. Far East Area Commission's recommendation is disapproval, 7-0. Due to the disapprovals from recommending bodies, we'll now hear a staff report. Mr. Rose, the floor is yours.
President Harden, members of council. The site consists of 2 undeveloped parcels in the RRR Restricted Rural Residential District. The requested LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District will permit a multi-unit residential development containing up to 126 dwelling units. The gross density of the proposed development is 16.01 units per acre, and after right-of-way dedication, the site will have a net density of 17.17 dwelling units per acre. While the proposal is inconsistent with the land use recommendation of the Far East Land Use Plan, Columbus citywide planning policies, design guidelines state that large sites with land use recommendation of very low density residential may merit support for higher density developments if the following elements are present. The proposal is consistent with C2P2 guiding principles. There are more intense uses present in the area, and the overall site design mitigates impacts on adjacent uses. Staff notes that directly south and east of the site are multi-unit residential developments zoned in the ARLD, LARLD, LAR 12 districts, and that recommended land use for those properties are medium to high density residential at 16 to 24 dwelling units per acre, and medium density residential at 10 to 16 dwelling units per acre. Both similar in recommended density to the proposed LAR 1 district. Additionally, the site plan demonstrates pedestrian connectivity to the public street system north of the subject site, shows a new shared use path along McNaughton Road frontage, and includes appropriate landscaping and screening of neighboring uses. As such, staff is supportive of the increased density proposed with the requested LAR1 district at this location and recommends approval. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Do my colleagues have any questions for the department at this time? Seeing none, I would invite the representative from the applicants forward, Mr. Jeff Brown. Mr. Brown?
Could I hire you as my technical assistant? What do I just hit that? Okay. Good evening, President Harden, Zoning Chair Dorans, council members. I'm Jeff Brown here on behalf of Metro Development. If you look at this piece of property, I think the one thing that will come to mind is that it's an infill site. And if you talk to the planners and if you see what is going on in the city, we are doing infill development. That is the preferred method of development nowadays. We're not going to grow out, we're going to grow inward. And so we're going to have to look at and develop the pieces that are remaining. When you look at this site, you will see the yellow colored areas. Those are already zoned multifamily development. You will see that our property is surrounded on 3 sides by multifamily development. On the east side in 2021, for the same client, for the same type of units, we rezoned that property for 160 units. We had no trouble with the area commission. We had no trouble with the development commission. There was no discussion at city council. It was just approved. When you look at our site, this is what we did on the east side of the street. You heard the discussion in terms of the presentation by staff. City is looking at us to meet the C2, P2 requirements, which brings the buildings closer to the street, put the parking behind, connect things up both internally and externally with sidewalks. This is what we did on the east side of the street. Here is the west side of the street. We originally proposed 136 units on this side of the street. We went in expecting not to have a problem because of what happened on the east side. We did the same type of program, buildings out front, parking behind. You can see landscaping and everything. The city's asked us to connect Yorkland, which is that street to the west where we have to do a cul-de-sac. That is only used for fire access. We have security gates there that block any use other than the fire department. We went through the process, weren't successful. We came back and dropped our density. We got rid of that building at the northeast corner. That reduced our density to 126 units. What we're talking about is affordable housing. Our 1 and 2 bedroom units meet the 80% AMI requirements, and we're doing all this without tax abatement. When you look at this project here, you see new landscaping, you need fencing on the south side that we were asked to do. You see tree preservations at the north side where that cul-de-sac is. We have done all the things that you would expect to see with a multifamily development that backs up on one side to a single-family subdivision. You see where we've placed one-story garages, have the setbacks, even removed that building at the northeast corner. Now we are faced with an issue dealing with traffic, which is a little odd because traffic was never really discussed when we did the 2021 rezoning. And this is right across the street. Traffic looked at this, they dictate what we study, and they tell us what the improvements are that we need to do. In this instance, we were very lucky because we could line up the entryways for these both sites. We're doing turn lanes in both directions. I would have to say that these two properties will have the best access on McNaughton Road without a traffic signal. But now traffic's the issue. And the question becomes, what's missing when you look at this area? And what's missing is the surrounding developments. All those properties got developed and nobody addressed McNaughton Road. So we're in a situation now where we come forward with a project where we meet the traffic requirements that the city has. We're providing affordable housing units. We're doing everything that we are supposed to do to make this work. When you think about it, sidewalks and streets are really, at the end of the day, the responsibility of the city. We have done what we can do, but if the expectation is that a developer with an 8-acre site and 126 units is supposed to fix McNaughton Road from East Broad Street all the way down to Livingston, that's an impassable task. Nothing will happen with this property if that's the standard. When you look at this, it's infill, it's affordable housing, and we've met our traffic obligation. This is an appropriate zoning for this property, and I ask that you be supportive as you were when we did the same program on the other side of the street with no issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Do my colleagues have any questions for the representative of the applicant at this time? Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll call you up later for rebuttal. Next, we have, we'll hear from Far East Area Commission Chair Jennifer Chamberlain. Ms. Chamberlain? Chair, thank you for being here tonight. The floor is yours.
I'd like to thank Council President Hardin, council members, and Chair Dorans of the Zoning Committee for allowing me to speak tonight on behalf of the Far East Area Commission. I would also like to thank all the residents who are here tonight from McNaughton Corridor. There's a lot. The Commission understands the importance and urgency of our current housing situation in the City of Columbus. So much so that together with the Mid-East Area Commission and the Greater Southeast Area Commission, under our Greater East Side Coalition, we held a housing symposium with experts from various city departments earlier this year. I want to be clear about this. We do recognize the urgent need for more housing and affordable housing. MORPC has McNaughton called out as a high injury corridor based on streets that have historically experienced a high number of crashes resulting in fatal and serious injuries. In 1998, the City of Columbus paid for an engineering study for McNaughton Corridor stretching between East Broad and Livingston. The results of the study cited that increasing traffic volumes and safety are major problems. Solutions included widening to 5 lanes, additional turn lanes, sidewalks on both sides, and right-of-way for roadway improvements. Sadly, none of these solutions were implemented, and in 2019, an 11-year-old girl was struck by not just one but multiple vehicles while walking to her bus stop. Jeff Brown in the past has called out that the Far East Area Commission approved a previous project across the street at 1572 McNaughton. Our approval of the project was for height and setback alone, not a density increase. Currently, 1555 is zoned in the lowest residential bracket, and the developer wants the second highest. It's a big jump. The Commission has grave concerns about loading the corridor, considering the previous engineering reports and pedestrian fatality. We understand the cost liability of such a small site, and therefore it is not feasible to build single-family homes by the developer. We did reach out to the Department of Recreation and Parks to see if they'd be willing to purchase a parcel. They confirmed their interest to us, as McNaughton currently has no parkland, and this is a wonderful site. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. We do have 6 individuals that have signed up to speak on this ordinance tonight. We, as council policy, we take 3 in favor and 3 against. I will call the order in the, call the speakers in order the speaker slip was received. Reminder that individuals that are testifying will have 3 minutes, and please state your name and any relationship you have with the property or any organization you're representing. The first individual testifying this evening is, and I apologize if I get anyone's names wrong, Wally Bell. Mr. Bell, thank you for being here. Welcome to council. Thank you. Sir, the floor is yours. Oh, because of the rezoning, we actually don't need to swear folks in. That's only for council variances, but thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Honorable members of City Council, city government officials, as well as the mayor's office, speaking not only as a resident, but also a representative of the Yorkshire East subdivision, we join the townhomes at McNaughton, Sussex Square, McNaughton Woods, McNaughton Plaza, Oak Village, Scotland Yard, Rock Glen, and Quarry Ridge subdivisions in opposition to this development proposal. I'm going to go through this really fast, so I apologize. I want to review. We've been battling this for more than 6 months. You folks are just seeing this now, but we've been dealing with this since September of last year. The Far East Area Commission has rejected this proposal twice. The planning division of the city has rejected this as well, as you just heard. We have given you petitions from our area to show things. McNaughton Road is a critical corridor for emergency services, particularly to Mount Carmel Hospital. Both Columbus EMS and Reynoldsburg EMS, while not having an official position, have indicated that the development would have a negative impact on incident response time, as well as patient transportation to Mount Carmel Hospital, as well as any other areas. The McNaughton Point Nursing Home, which is exactly adjacent to the proposal, is definitely officially against it. They indicated to us that they have more than 100 transports a month, and they have at least 30 emergency transports a month in terms of literally life or death situations and major runs that would be directly affected by opening a part of that development. Let's talk about density. The development has been reduced to 126 units, which is 16.1 per acre. Previously, it was 136 units with a density of almost 18. The density that was indicated by you folks, the city of Columbus, is 1 to 4 per acre. This project is more than 4 times the size of what you folks recommended, and the 10 units that they reduced it is merely like a 1% reduction in the development plan. Paraphrasing a representative from Metro Development during a past Far East Area Commission meeting, they said they really don't do small projects. Metro does large projects. We understand that, we appreciate it, and we know what they originally presented, as well as the revised plan that they have now is not appropriate for this area. So we ask that you defeat this revised plan proposal and allow us to move forward with some more appropriate things, like was mentioned before with the Far East Area Commission. The park would be a great idea, or much smaller, less denser development.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Bell? Mr. Bell, I did want to ask, so you mentioned some very specific details about conversations with Mount Carmel. Could you let us know who that was with?
Not with Mount Carmel.
Okay.
With it's the North Point Nursing Home.
Okay.
And I can't give you the information that, yeah, the administration there gave us their numbers.
Okay.
And they said that's actually low amounts.
Great.
On both the emergency and the other.
I'll make sure my staff follows up with you. I'd love to get that information.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
The next speaker to come before council, that is speaking against this ordinance, is Ms. Colleen Nissel. Colleen, welcome to council.
Good evening, Colleen Nissel. I'm here to represent the Coalition of Neighborhoods bordering McNaughton Road, and also to tell you that I'm here on behalf of the McNaughtons. I live in their house. It's 200 years old, and it does border right on McNaughton Road. So we have a strong feeling that this particular project is totally the antithesis to what the neighborhoods along McNaughton Road have. Let's start with the undisputed facts. This area has been traditionally RRR, R, or R1, obviously rural, which matches the character of the road. A 2-lane country road, no lights, no sidewalks, deep drainage ditches bordering the road. It's laughable to think that anybody would have put a 5-lane road there. They would have had to take such eminent domain because there's so many houses living next to it. Now the road is being impacted on its western edge, maybe you don't realize this, by AEP, who is taking 20 feet by agreement or eminent domain in order to put new steel poles and lines on the western side. I don't know if you're going to have that on No Bixby Road or not, President Hardin, but that's coming. This road has no expansion capacity due to no houses, or due to the number of houses that border it. There are 70 of them. 270 sits on the western side, and residents can only leave. How many residents can only leave and enter onto McNaughton Road? Approximately 5,000, and that's just residents. And that doesn't mean just one car, that means several cars. Add to the fact that Station 5 runs approximately 10,000 runs per year. The only way they can do it is up and down McNaughton Road. Ditches prevent any of us from moving off to the side of the road when they're coming. We pull in driveways. Also, Coda Bus has 8 stops. They cannot pull off onto the side, ditches on the side of the roads. So that's what the road is all about. Now, let's talk about what these facts can't be ignored. But let's talk about some other things. You all are very big on canopies. The canopy that exists on the proposed site probably is between 7 clear cut. That canopy helps filter the road noise from 270. That's not something that's in your general plan for the city as well, as I understand it. The city is experiencing a home ownership deficit and shortage, not an apartment shortage. When you take into account the downtown massive Edwards buildings, the Whitehall and Reynoldsburg building near McNaughton Road on either side going going east and west, over 1,000 apartments. We've got apartments coming. We need homes. But most importantly, and I'll finish this up, for once this city can stop impacting communities of color. McNaughton Road is well over 90% home-owned, and generation wealth is built by home ownership. And let's not impact that opportunity here when people have to look in their backyards that they've spent their hard-earned dollars to buy and
I'll ask you to wrap up there if you can.
So that's the course that I'd like you to start is declining zoning requests here in particular because of its impact to our diverse community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker to come before council speaking against the ordinance is Mr. Henry Guzman. Mr. Guzman. Mr. Guzman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's great to be back in this great hall. I used to sit somewhere around here when I was the service director. So, Council President, Zoning Chair Dorans, and members of City Council, it's an honor to be back here at City Hall again. And I'm coming here in opposition to the specific ordinance, zoning change, due in many instances to what's already been discussed, and I will not repeat a lot of that. But it is a country road in an urban setting. McNaughton Road has a lot of traffic. And as was indicated before, since the study that was done by Wilbur Smith, there has been a lot more construction going on. So the traffic has been exacerbated since that study was done. So having all these additional apartments on that corridor would make the situation worse. Bryce Road has, McNaughton Road has 3 times the traffic that Bryce Road has, and Bryce Road is a 5-lane highway, roadway. So you can imagine what's going on McNaughton Road. As was indicated earlier, it is a hindrance to emergency vehicles. When kids are being picked up from school, traffic backs up. There is cars that are going around the cars that are parked there trying to get into the school. So it does create a traffic hazard. In closing, let me add that I'm fully aware of the need for housing. Many cities across the nation have done something different than I believe you're proposing here. Instead of abatement for developers, they have tax abatements for the homeowners. In Cleveland, they created 15-year property tax abatement for homeowners that allowed for homeowners to buy homes at a much reduced price. So that might be something that this body might want to consider in the future. So I think it's important that we look at this roadway and do not allow any additional housing until such time as the infrastructure is improved on that particular road, and you create a moratorium at this point. So I would urge you to vote no on this particular ordinance. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Guzman? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Darren Boatwright, who is speaking in favor of the ordinance. Mr. Boatwright? Welcome to council. Doing well. Floor is yours, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Well, I live in McNaughton Homes. Thank you for letting me speak. I've been there for well over 6 months, and I have no issues with the traffic. I have a Harley, get on the road quick, right, left. I do have an issue with the neighborhood across from the apartment complex because there's a homeless camp across the street. There's been multiple times I've seen a naked guy run across in front of me. Actually, I'm a truck driver. I go to work at 3 in the morning. It's a lot of weird stuff that happens before I go to work. There's a lot of issues. I don't have any problems though with the development or anything like that. It's quiet, safe. The only thing that makes me nervous is something bad happening with the people coming across the street and getting in our cars, because that's a normal thing.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Boatwright. Any questions from my colleagues? Thank you. Appreciate you coming down to council tonight. The next speaker to come forward council speaking in favor of the legislation is Mr. DeLacy Bean. Mr. Bean? Welcome to council, sir. Probably heard me say it a few times, but the floor is yours and you have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name is DeLacy Bean. I've been living in Waldron Woods for about 7 months. Wonderful place, beautiful. I live right in the front. Sit out on my deck, and there's not a lot of traffic at all, and there's hardly any people walking up and down the road except for when they walk on our sidewalk that they were gracious enough to put out there. There's a lot of young people living there, new people out of college. They needed a place to stay, and it's been wonderful. The people wouldn't have been able to live on that road if those apartments weren't put in there, because like some of the people said before, they've been there for years. They're homeowners. I would have never been able to live on that street if Waldron Woods wouldn't develop that area. And across the road, there is a homeless camp. If they develop that, that'll go away. When the buses do come, they come in right into our cul-de-sac and pick the kids up. It's totally safe. I think they were having problems down closer to Main Street, where there's a highway, and if you cross the road over there, you may be in trouble. But I haven't seen any kids crossing the road going, catching a bus or anything like that. It's totally safe. I sit out in the front. There's no traffic really except for around 4 o'clock. And that's when the kids are getting off. And like they said, it is kind of tight, but it's nothing that lasts no more than a minute or two. You know, developing that property across the street will bring pride, young people who want to live on that side of town, a place to stay on McNaughton Road, which is I love. And I don't see anything wrong with the city letting them put that in there for the younger people that's coming to the city. The city's growing. We're going to have Intel in here in a minute, and we need apartments. And they're filling up as quick as they're putting the last nail in. Somebody's in there. And it's a desired place, it's a desired side of town. And I'm proud of where I live. And I would love to see the same thing across the street instead of a homeless camp. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, thank you for coming to council tonight. Appreciate it. And the final speaker to come before council speaking in favor of the ordinance is Mr. Timothy Toombs. Mr. Toombs? Welcome to council, sir. Floor is yours, and you have 3 minutes.
My last name is Timothy Toms. Just the H and the B is silent. So, I'm a veteran that lives over in the Waldron Woods area. I've been looking for a place to live for quite a while. Most of the places are kind of old and ran down. Once I had a chance to find Waldron Woods, I found it a very quiet area to live in. Me being a disabled veteran, it's very quiet. It's very safe. I've also been a victim of a home invasion. And I over there have none of that going on whatsoever. All the neighbors, we watch out for each other. I'm actually a neighbor of the first speaker. And we've developed a nice friendship and whatnot, and we're constantly out there looking for each other. The issue as far as the mercy and whatnot, that's actually on the opposite end of where we stand at. So there's really nothing on that end whatsoever. Again, the times I go to work and whatnot, you may have to stop for an occasional bus, but it's only for a couple of seconds. It's not big of a deal. And I personally would like to see another area over there. You know, I know some other veterans that would like to get in and try to get better housing as opposed to living in some of these houses that's been around since 1974. So I'm totally in favor of it. I don't see any other issues that have been hearing. I see none of the issues whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? See none. Thank you, Mr. Toombs. I did want to invite the representative of the applicant back for any additional testimony after hearing public comment.
We did zone the east side of the property. We zoned it and had a council variance, so both actions went through the area commission and was supported by everybody in the process. You heard the staff report. This property was zoned in 1956. That's not as old as I am, but pretty darn close to it. Planning looked at what we're doing. They're looking at their C2P2 policies, and they are supportive of the density that we are requesting. You can see the aerial. We have multifamily on 3 sides of us, and as you can see from the site plan, where we back up to the single family, we are preserving the tree line along there. We've put 1-story garages as being the transitions between their backyard property line and where we start our buildings. If you think about it, we have everything on this site that our neighbors want. We have sidewalks, we have access, we have turn lanes. So we have done everything that the traffic department has asked us to do. This property is near Livingston. It's not up where the fire station is at East Broad Street. It's an appropriate land use. It's infill. It's affordable. And we've made all the commitments that you would expect from a developer who is trying to do the right thing in a neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions or comments from my colleagues for Mr. Brown at this time?
I have 2 questions.
Councilmember Bankston.
Councilmember Chair Dorns, and I'm not sure if they're for the applicant or for city staff, but with this site plan, what is the current parking count?
The code requirement is 1.5 units, spaces per unit, and the total number,
Oh, is it on here?
206 surface and 36 garages.
So it meets.
Yes,
it
it
meets that, okay.
exceeds the code requirement.
And then and this is maybe more to city staff, from a current zoning, how many single-family homes would fit with the current zoning?
I believe the plan recommendation at this area recommends, I believe, 4 dwelling units per acre. With the current zoning, the RRR district, I don't know exactly what the density would be, but I believe that at the time, it would only be for 1 single unit dwelling as what is permitted in that district. But as far as what this lot is, I don't remember what the area district requirements are for that district.
Okay. And then I think the applicant said that traffic looked at this, and from my briefing, that the street would be widened there to accommodate a center turn lane. Is that correct?
I'll defer to traffic.
That's correct. With this proposed development, the developer would be required to construct a northbound left turn lane into the site, and there's already a southbound left turn lane into the site on the east side of McNaughton at this.
Got it.
Excuse me. Well, with this proposed development, the developer would be required to construct a northbound left turn lane into the site, and there's already existing a southbound left turn lane that was constructed with the development on the east side of McNaughton.
Okay. Thank you.
The neighbors did raise the issue of single family, and so we did a layout, not to meet the triple R, but a standard layout nowadays with a single family. We got 37 lots of single family. The problem is when you take the cost of development, the house price that you get is more expensive than the new houses that are being sold in the area. So we did look at that as an option. We're not in the single-family business, but we wanted to go through that exercise to see what that produced, and those were the results.
Thank you. I just asked that question because one of what that impact would be, but then 2, also to your point, if it's that small, right, development costs and understanding single-family development, you would be at a price point that probably wouldn't necessarily fit the area, or that would be pricing out folks that would be able to live there if it was multifamily. Okay.
It's over 400,000.
Thank you.
Councilmember Barosa de Pie.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and I'm not sure who can answer.
Feel free to direct to Mr. Brown, and if he can't answer them, we'll have the city staff.
Great. My first question is, it was referenced a couple times, a traffic study that was done in this area. Do we know when that traffic study was done?
Mr. Moorhead.
Our traffic study was done last year as part of the zoning requirement.
Okay.
Under the city regulations, the city tells us what areas to study, And
For
then-
that particular area?
Yes.
But the
They
larger,
determine, well, yes, we did one for our
Sure.
development, but the city tells us what to look at as part of that study.
got it. But we don't know the date of the larger, I don't know if our area commissioners know when with that larger, do you know? 1998. Okay, and then my other question is, during this process, I know that a couple times it's been referenced about the access that Mount Carmel has. Do we know, Chair Dorns, or have we heard from, or city staff, if you could answer this question from a traffic management point of view, has Mount Carmel issued concerns about access? Like from the hospital themselves, not our perceive, what we perceive, but.
Councilmember, I have not had a substantive discussion
We
with
don't know
Mount
that?
Carmel on this topic. I don't know if the departments have at this point.
Okay,
Remember, this site is just north of Livingston.
sure. I'm asking questions based upon what has been referenced a couple different times. I'm just trying to understand. There's one thing about perception, what we believe to be true, and then there is sometimes in zoning, we've heard things like a fire truck can't get through, but we've known, because we've gone through some sort of certification with the fire department, that it is certain that a fire truck can get through and has allowances. I just wanted to understand if Mount Carmel has said to us at some point, if we knew that information. My other wonder is, I think it's been referenced a couple times, rezoning McNaughton corridor parcels for apartments will eliminate high-quality single-family home sites. I was just wondering, do we have any sort of evidence that because we built apartments, we will not build single-family homes? Has that been part of any of our studies? No. I'm just trying to understand the points that were on here in the data, because I'm not sure that it's an either or. I think it can be an and. It can be both, right? There is no, maybe it eliminates it at the site because we're building something else, but that doesn't mean in the area there is no elimination of single-family homes. Okay.
This property was zoned for single-family development in 1956, and nothing has happened with the site.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council members at this time? Thank you, Mr. Brown. Before I call for a vote tonight, I do want to address some of the things we've heard tonight and certainly in the past year leading up to this vote. This council is deeply committed to engaging and listening with our residents and taking into consideration both their feedback and what is best overall for the city of Columbus. Generally, legislation in the zoning committee is not added to our agenda without my expectation that there's enough council support for passage. However, this piece of legislation was added to our agenda at the request of the applicant. City Council evaluates each application that comes through against priorities that we established when I took over chair of this committee. Those priorities include affordable/mixed income housing stock, Area Commission recommendations, City Staff Development Commission recommendations, proximity and incorporation of transportation infrastructure, green space/environmental concerns, job creation and proximity to job centers, neighborhood needs and requests of the applicants, private investment in public infrastructure, and proposed density matches area infrastructure and/or adjacent uses. This proposal has recorded disapprovals from both the Development Commission and the Far East Area Commission, bodies that are formally recognized in City Code to make land use recommendations directly to City Council. City Council is not bound by these recommendations, however, but they are key towards our evaluation of any project. I'd like to remind folks that council votes with our area commissions and civic associations over 95% of the time when it relates to these issues. Contrary to what folks may hear, it's actually very rare for council to vote against recommendations from these advisory bodies. As Columbus' population continues to grow, with expectations of over 1 million more people in the next 20 years, we have to be ready with enough housing units available for everyone to live affordably. This is simply a case of our housing supply not meeting market demand. We know that when demand outpaces supply, we see rapid increases in prices, whether it's owner-occupied or rental housing. And we've talked a little bit about here tonight the differences between single-family housing and apartment. When we talk about the housing units, when you hear that we're in a deficit of tens of thousands of units, that makes no distinction between rental or owner-occupied. That is simply housing units. This means that change is coming in nearly every area of Columbus, and I understand that concerns many. But due to the growth of Central Ohio, this change is going to be inevitable. While I believe that this may be uncomfortable, our community truly believes that working families deserve a place to live, raise their kids, and not pay nearly half of their income to keep a roof over their head. And I think folks that are here tonight I would hope would agree with that. I want to thank residents that have taken time to be here tonight to testify, and many more that have emailed myself and all the council members. I appreciate many of the productive and well-meaning comments from residents. However, I also want to respond to a few that have been raised regarding this application. Some have suggested that apartments will lower property values, and that's why they do not support this application. However, I'd like to remind these residents that study after study has not shown any significant correlation between apartment construction and lowering of surrounding property values. Some have suggested renters are bad neighbors. I can say, as someone who's been a renter significantly longer than I've been a property owner, a resident does not magically become a better neighbor simply because they own property. Worse, I've heard in some emails the suggestions that renters bring crime to a neighborhood. This is a tired dog whistle argument, and one that I will not entertain as long as I'm chair of the zoning committee. We have heard that City Council should put a moratorium on development in this area due to traffic or other infrastructure concerns. Traffic engineers at the Department of Public Service evaluate every single project that comes before council to determine whether traffic improvements are warranted based upon the size of that development. I know I'm not a trained traffic engineer, so I trust our experts to review these projects to give council the right information to make our decision. We cannot make land use decisions based on folks feeling that traffic will somehow be out of control due to new development in their neighborhood. We've heard that this property and others should somehow be, quote, reserved for single-family homes or condos. City Council does not reserve any property for any certain types of development. We act on applications that are filed by property owners that come before us. A singular focus on single-family home construction is not the answer to our growing housing crisis. I've heard the decision on this application would somehow set a precedent for this area. I have to say that it's a bit ironic for folks to suggest this, but considering that this property is surrounded by multifamily at multiple different sites, literally across the street. As the chair of the zoning committee, it's always my hope that we're able to work through with the community to address the real and perceived issues associated with any rezoning or variance application. This specific piece of legislation, in my opinion, right now is not ready to move forward. But that does not mean council is saying no to development on this site or any other sites on the McNaughton corridor, but rather we have some work to do internally at the city to make sure that issues associated with these developments are addressed and well thought out in the future. For that reason, that's why I'll be voting no tonight on this proposed rezoning. With that, I want to pause and see if my council members have any comments at this time. Councilmember Bankston?
Thank you, Councilmember, for your leadership, and I think put so eloquently. You know, it was in this chamber, I think, a couple meetings ago that we were dealing with this on a different side of town, and my comments are still the same, which is this is a reflection of an outdated zoning code. We are referencing studies from 1998. We're referencing guidance and zoning from the 1950s. And as much as folks want to preserve what they have, Columbus is changing. Growth is here. And we need housing. I think about the neighborhood that I currently live in Northeast Columbus. We're going through the same thing. Literally out of nowhere, there was trees, and now there's over 1,000 apartment units going in. Behind my home, which is the neighborhood that I grew up in, which was once trees and farmland, now there's over 500 single-family homes and over 1,000 apartments. My home abuts that apartment. My home value has increased in the past 2 years by over $30,000. There's not been a significant uptick in crime. There's not been any issues. Currently, you look at Cassidy Avenue and its makeup, we're dealing with the same thing, 2-lane country road, that now almost 200 units are going up there, right? But also that work has been done by Council President Hart when he was chair of public service, of now the street is being widened and we're doing it. So this isn't, I think, a conversation around traffic versus housing. I think it's a conversation of, yes, hold the city accountable, that we need to address the street, absolutely. But when I think of what my duties are when it comes to zoning and thinking about the site, I have to base it off the merit of the project and base it off of what we as a council and what we as a community have said that we value, which is affordable housing. By the way, this is naturally occurring affordable housing. Right? This is not even subsidized housing. We're talking about working folk. We're talking about retired veterans who are on fixed incomes, who need a high-quality place to stay. I see Ms. Quay here. She knows how much I love her. I see so many other community members here. You all know how much I love you. And so I hope that my yes vote does not necessarily mean that I'm disregarding what you are saying. This is what we want to see in this chamber. It's folks coming to raise their voice and making sure that we hear that all sides of it. But as a council member and as an elected official, sometimes I have to make the tough decision. And it is one that I may be on my own on, because I absolutely agree. We have work to do around this corridor, a lot of work to do. But that shouldn't stop us from moving forward on based off the merits of this particular project. And so for that, I just wanted to make sure I explained where I was coming from, and I will be voting yes this evening. So thank you, Councilmember Dorns. I want to say this too to everyone. Councilmember Dorns has ran a fantastic process on this. He has made sure that every voice is heard. I think has given each council member up here the room to make their own decisions. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership. And again, want to echo that we have a lot of work to do in this corridor and so many other around our city. And I know that the zone-in process and redoing an entire zoning code and overhauling from 1956 takes a long time. But this, in my opinion, fits the neighborhood, and also it fits our dire need for housing. And so thank you, Councilmember Dorns, for letting me make those comments.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Faber.
Thank you, Chair Dorans. So this is a challenging vote for me this evening as being the Chair of Housing, someone who speaks around the clock for the need for more housing across the board, market rate all the way to affordable to extremely low income housing as well. But one of the first initiatives that I took up when I became a member of City Council, when I was Chair of Public Service, unfortunately came from the young girl who lost her life crossing the street trying to go to school. City Council purchased flashlights, blinking lights that could go on backpacks. We got them in schools. We did a whole thing to really bring attention to the need for folks to not be distracted, for us to be paying attention on the road, but then to obviously talk about what has been the main point of the conversation as it relates to this specific zoning matter. This is what also sparked Vision Zero and Director Gallagher truly taking up this torch to ensure that we eliminate serious and fatal traffic incidents in our city. And so it pains me to have to do this, to vote no on this specific one, but it runs contrary to something that I championed just a few years ago, which was to bring attention to what was happening on this specific corridor. For me, this does not set the precedent for this specific community because we do need housing across the board. But I do believe that there is some infrastructure that needs to take place, that this is one incident where we cannot afford to kick the can down the road. The answer to a lot of the rebuttal that we've heard tonight isn't single-family homes. In fact, I think I heard an acknowledgement that we have enough rental apartments in our community, and we do not. We are in dire straits. Every day, 34 people are moving into the city of Columbus. That is not a made-up number. This is our reality. And that's why this decision is incredibly challenging for me to make this evening. But I would not be voting my conscience. I would not be doing what I believe is best in this specific situation based upon what I know to be true in that specific area, and definitely to honor the lives that have been lost in our community tragically. But I do want to be clear that our housing crisis is absolutely real. And the answer isn't just to build more single families. And quite honestly, folks that are moving into our community are looking for other options beyond just single family. That's why we're trying new initiatives like our accessory dwelling unit and tiny homes and things of that nature. So I would challenge the folks in the community to begin to expand outside of the box as to what new housing units can look like in our community. And so hopefully that gives a little bit of background as to what my thinking is as I cast my vote this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else? Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Chair Dorns. I will say that this was incredibly challenging too. I think as the chair of public service, everything that folks have brought up today have been something that, you know, we've had conversations before about McNaughton. How do we start, and not just McNaughton, but that area, because, you know, inevitably it's tied to other parts of as you travel further east, and what are the infrastructure improvements that we need to make. The other thing that I would just, not to belabor the points that my council members made, because I believe that they made them so eloquently, but one thing that I just want to bring to people's attention, and everyone's not going to feel comfortable with this, but if everyone takes a look around the room that is here today, that is forming coalitions, if we look at all of Columbus, it does not represent the totality of who we are and where we are going and who is coming here. And when I think about renters, I mean, to Councilmember Dorn's point, I just became a homeowner like 4 years ago, right? My aide, your sons, your daughters, your grandchildren, retired veterans, other people are people who need housing, and they need it in all parts of the city. And they should be able to choose where they want to live, not forced into a place because that's the only place that they can afford to live. And so as we think about how we care for and nurture our neighborhoods and the places where we live, and I say this as someone who literally lives 4 minutes away from my mother, if y'all have never heard my story, I love and nurture the neighborhood that I live in, and I also welcome other people into that area. And so I say that because in many of the feedback and the conversations that I heard from folks, infrastructure was key, and I believe that. And infrastructure is something that drove my decision. What will drive my decision the opposite way is when we start talking about how bringing people into our neighborhood changes the neighborhood. Because there is a way that we can all live together. And there is a way that we can welcome everyone of every economic level, of every walk of life. And we need to start changing what is in our minds about, because if I am your council member and I could not afford to buy a home until 4 years ago, right before I became a member of this council, we need to start changing who is moving in and renting those apartments that we don't want in our neighborhoods. Because that's a reality of what we're facing as a city. And everyone isn't going to buy a house because everyone doesn't want a house. Quite honestly, talk to anyone who is in this market today. It's a different way of living. And so I share that with all of us because I think it's an honest conversation that we need to have as a city. We need to work with data, and we need to open our hearts, and we need to open our minds, and that needs to be part of the driving force behind how we make decisions, because that is truly loving and caring for your neighbors.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else?
Thank you,
Council President.
Chair. And you know, this is also what democracy looks like. I'll say that. To hear my colleagues, to hear the advocacy from the neighbors, for and against this project. I'm proud of my colleagues tonight because regardless of how we will vote, the philosophy that is coming out of this dais is the same. So I have, folks, everybody here knows, especially everybody in the audience knows that I am a new resident to this community. And been there about a year. And one of the reasons that I moved there was because of the people. The people. It's a great neighborhood filled of amazing people. And over the past couple years, and I ran into this in a neighborhood that is not new to me, actually where I was actually grew up in, same as Councilmember Bankston, on the nearer east side over on Livingston and Fairwood, where I grew up as a child. You found, what I found was that great people, people that raised me, people that I agree with and we agree on everything, and I know the stock of them, I know the character, can be right on every issue, but darn wrong when it comes to housing. I think in this instance, the folks who are advocating around the wrong usage of this space, this land use, I believe it is wrong. Councilmember Bankston said it at best, we are making decisions based off of the 1956 zoning code when we talk about 4 units per acre. That does not make sense. It does not make sense. When we talk about affordability in this community, we will not get there as a community if we do not build more housing. I have not made up my mind yet, but I do have a philosophy when it comes to housing. We need more of it, and we need it everywhere. We need it in areas where people have easy ways to get down here to advocate against it, and we need it in areas where folks can't make it down here because they have to take a bus to get there. We need it everywhere. And I want that to be the philosophy loud and clear heard from this council, that we will, even to the people that we live next to, even to the people that we love and that we understand their advocacy, that we will be pro-housing, because pro-housing is pro-people. And that is the direction that we have to go as a city if we want to make sure, if we want to ensure that my son and your children and grandchildren can afford to live in this city. Because if we do not build more housing and much more of it, if your child and your grandchildren are not doctors and lawyers, we will be like Austin, where you will have to go far outside of the city limits to afford a house. And that is not the city that we are building. And so I would just encourage my colleagues, as always, vote your conscience. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. With that, Councilmember Brown.
First, foremost, Councilmember, Chairman of the Zoning Committee, you've done a fantastic job. It's been very, very challenging in a variety of different ways. I think it's significant for everyone to know that I live in that neighborhood and have lived there for over 30 years. I am very aware of the circumstances with regards to the traffic. I am very aware of the circumstances surrounding the situation with the hospitals. I'm very aware of the situation involving the schools. I'm very aware of the young lady that was killed on McNaughton Road. She was killed on McNaughton Road. Housing is an issue. It will continue to be an issue in the city of Columbus. But we have to be responsible with regards to the way in which we move forward for housing. You just can't just say, oh, we're going to just go do this in this particular area because it is vacant. That is not acceptable. I am undeniably voting no on this legislation. Undeniably. Because I live there. I'll be going home tonight on that road. I understand the circumstances, very, very much so. But there are more additional ways in which we can deal with it. And I must tell you, when I moved into Columbus over 30 years ago, the neighbors were kind, they were sensitive, they were responsive to me moving into the neighborhood. And like I said, I still live there to this day. This legislation is not necessarily an indictment on this council or on the community. But I will tell you, for all of the members of the city council, when we get the public to come down here like you all here tonight, it speaks volumes to all of us as elected officials about how you feel about what happens in your community. So thank you all for being here. It is appreciated, and I recognize that. And with that, again, Chair Dorns, thank you again for the hard work you put in.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. With that, at this point, I would move for passage by voice.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Mr. Bankston,
Yes.
Ms. Barosa de Padilla,
No.
Mr. Brown,
No.
Mr. Dorans,
No.
Ms. Favor,
No.
Mr. Remy,
No.
President Harden.
Yes. Ordinance failed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1756-2023 to grant variance provisions of section 3332.035 R3 Residential District for the property located at 143 South Garfield Avenue to permit a 4-unit dwelling in the R3 Residential District. The applicant is Gregory Fountain, care of Teresa Bland, agent. Proposed use is a 4-unit dwelling. City's Department recommendation is approval. Nearly Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff, the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
And finally, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 1788-2023 to grant a variance provisions of section 3312.27 parking setback line, 3333.255 perimeter yard, Columbus City Codes, of property located at 400 East Campus View Boulevard to permit a reduced development standards for an apartment complex in the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Campus Views Endeavors, LLC, care of Dave Perry, agent. Proposed use a multi-unit residential development. City's Department recommendation is approval. Far North Columbus Communities Coalition recommendation is also approval. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Yeah, accept it.
Thank you. Next, I move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. All we have in the zoning agenda tonight.
Seeing no further business, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We convene in 5 minutes. You want to just go? Let's get out of here. I gotta go. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee chaired by Councilmember President Pro Tem Dorans. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in Public Utilities, we have Ordinance 1527-2023 to authorize an amendment to the 2022 capital improvement budget to authorize a transfer of cash and appropriations within the sanitary bond fund, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase the southerly composting facility odor control improvements professional services agreement with Hatch Associates Consultants, to authorize an amendment of up to $1,115,400 within the sanitary bond fund to pay for contract modification and declared emergency. The Department of Public Utilities operates and manages 2 large municipal wastewater treatment plants that create biosolids that are processed at the compost facility. This project will replace infrastructure at the compost facility that is at risk of failure, which could result in noncompliance with the regulations or loss of function of the facility. Emergency designation is requested by the department for engineering services during construction to align with the project timeline. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1584-2023 to authorize amendment to the 2022 capital improvement budget to authorize transfer of cash and appropriation within the sanitary bond fund, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify and increase a professional engineering services contract with MS Consultants for the southerly wastewater treatment and floodplain improvement project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $4 million from the sanitary bond fund to pay for the contract modification and declared emergency. This project will take a holistic approach to site development at the wastewater treatment plant site. It will be more efficient to perform all of the stormwater and floodplain design under one contract, providing compliance to the stormwater and drainage manual, and reducing coordination efforts and delays in capital projects within the department. This ordinance is being requested to start environment study field work in order to not miss the growing season. If the growing season missed, this delay of the project could delay the project by a full year and jeopardize the timelines for plant expansion that is necessary to support the anticipated discharge for new development in the area. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Yes.
Thank you. Finally, we have Ordinance 1692-2023 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into construction modification for general engineering services for the 4th water plant with Hazen and Sawyer, and to apply and accept and enter into a water supply revolving loan account loan agreement with the Ohio Water Development Authority and Ohio Environmental Protection Agency for the financing thereof, and designate a dedicated source of repayment for the loan, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $11,838,000 from the Water System Reserve Fund to the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize the appropriation of expenditure of $11,838,000 within the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize an amendment to the 2022 capital improvement budget and declare an emergency. The city currently has 3 water plants that collectively provide drinking water to approximately 1.2 million customers in the city of Columbus and surrounding communities. The 4th water plant project will design and construct a 4th water plant to meet water supply needs for increase the resiliency and reliability of water supply and help support economic development and of the growth of Central Ohio. Emergency action is requested to complete the project in a timely manner to meet future anticipated water demands, to prevent a water shortage and avoid public health or other issues. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee coming before council is the Public Safety Committee chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President. Tonight I have one ordinance in public safety. It's Ordinance 1789-2023 to authorize the Finance Management Director to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contract purchase agreement for the purchase of in-car cameras, interview room cameras, and accessories for the Division of Police, to authorize the expenditure of $2,883,026.12 from the general fund, to authorize the transfer of funds within general fund, and to declare an emergency. Last year, we established this contract with Axon to be our body-worn camera provider, and so this is a continuation for this year's investment in the universal term contract that we approved last year. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, actually, that is all I have on public safety. With your permission, I'll move on to administration.
Please.
Next, I have ordinance 1836, 2023, to authorize the city clerk to enter into a contract with Triumph Communications for an educational campaign for the general public on the Columbus districts, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, to waive the competitive bidding requirements of the Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. In December 2021, Columbus City Council selected the first official council district map. This map created citywide representation for all residents by creating geographic diversity and where council members reside. This November, residents will head to the polls and vote for the districts for the first time. It is imperative that residents be educated on how to use this new system and how it will affect them and their families. Triumph Communications will develop a community-wide education and marketing campaign on the importance of the understanding how districts will impact residents and their neighbors. Triumph will develop a wider message platform and resource to reach inclusive demographics within Columbus. The education campaign will be comprised of television, digital, social, and radio. While an informal bidding process was utilized, a bid waiver to enter into contract with Triumph Communications is being requested in order to create a media campaign in support of the transition to Columbus districts. Triumph Communications has prior and thorough familiarity with the City of Columbus district transition and is best positioned to immediately initiate services prior to the general election in November. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Final committee coming for council is the Finance Committee, which I chair. We have ordinance 0089X-2023. That might be a resolution. County tax budget. The county tax budget is a state mandated process that we and our city auditor follow to receive our city's portion of local government funds. I move to postpone this to July 10th, pending a public hearing. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Postpone. Next, we have ordinance 0113X-2023. The capital improvement program is the city's 5-year roadmap to guide our investments in physical infrastructure. It includes the remaining priorities from the last several voted bond packages. For the last 2 months, Columbus City Council has been analyzing the administration's proposal, and we're hearing more feedback from our residents. We look forward to amending and ultimately passing this budget later this month. I move to refer this ordinance to committee. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Referred to committee. And lastly, we have ordinance 1603-2023. This legislation will permit the Department of Finance to provide just over $1 million of funding for asset work, the software the city uses to maintain, upkeep its fleet, vehicles. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues? Seeing none. If there are no further questions or comments, I move for passage. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Adopted. See no further business coming for council. Is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We will go right.